Welcome to EFT Expert Interviews, where we talk to renowned EFT practitioners on topics that can transform your life. These are live interviews where you can ask questions and get answers from the speaker. I'm your host, Stefan Gonick from EFTalive.com and singletosoulmate.me. And today we are talking to Kathleen Weber on the topic of EFT for students, bridging education and emotions, which is a topic I am very excited about because I've got two little kids in school. So this is very relevant for me, at least.
Mhm.
So talking now about Kathleen, as an advanced EFT practitioner, Kathleen Weber's passion is empowering youth and adults to break free from stuck emotional patterns so they can feel calm, confident, and in control. She uses a collaborative approach with her clients, meeting them exactly where they are emotionally and supporting them with deep empathy and safety. And here's my EFT kitty. With her extensive career in education as a school counselor, she also provides a variety of professional development opportunities for school communities. So, welcome, Kathleen. It is so wonderful to have you.
Thank you, Stefan. I really appreciate this opportunity to have this conversation with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, I'd like to start with my first question, a similar one that I ask every guest is how did you get started with all this?
Oh, goodness. Well, there were a few different opportunities where I was introduced to EFT, and one of them involved a chronic health condition when I was a school counselor. This was back in 2017, and just started to have some significant symptoms. Long story short, it ended up being chronic Lyme disease, and I really struggled with fatigue. And if you've had COVID, if you've had the flu where you just can't move, that's the level of fatigue that I had chronically. And might feel better at certain times, but if I did too much, it certainly, I would have paid the price for it later on with my energy. So I was on a medical leave for almost 2 years and was very fortunate to work with an incredible doctor, incredible team of people, and noticed some improvement. There was a cascade of effects from having Lyme disease, but the fatigue was the last thing to lift, and I was very frustrated with that. And speaking to my doctor, he referred me to a practitioner who used EFT. And working with her, I felt like that was the piece that I was missing in my care. My emotional well being, working with my body instead of against it, instead of feeling like I was fighting against it, and learning how to apply the techniques myself. It was an absolute game changer, life changer for me. And this practitioner also used EFT with students when she worked in a school setting. And I knew I needed to learn more about that. I needed to learn how I could best support my students when I got back to school with these techniques. And so here we are.
That's wonderful. So, in your experience, they are particularly active today, these two.
Yeah.
Tell us in your experience, tell us how the nervous system influences a child's ability to learn and to feel safe in the classroom.
Yeah, yeah. In education world, we have this saying called Maslow before Bloom. And Maslow refers to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where at the bottom of the pyramid, we have things like physiological needs, safety, or excuse me, shelter, clothing, water, food, those kinds of things. And then we move up into safety and security. So that's Maslow, and Bloom refers to Bloom's taxonomy, which is another hierarchy, but related to educational goals and milestones that students need to hit before they're ready to move to the next milestone. So when we talk about Maslow before Bloom, if we think about kids who don't have their basic needs met, if they're hungry, if they're cold, if they don't feel safe and secure, then they enter a fight, flight, freeze response and they lose access to the prefrontal cortex. This is This is the nervous system in action, the nervous system protecting the child. And when they
Right?
lose,
Could
yeah,
you
go ahead.
mention what the prefrontal cortex is about?
Yep, I was just about to get into
Ah,
that. Yep.
okay, great.
Thank you. Thank you. So the prefrontal cortex it's located right behind the eyebrows. It's the part of the brain that houses all of our skills that we need to be able to learn. So, for example, being able to focus and pay attention in class, being able to access information, to organize our belongings, to be able to communicate. So, and that's both ways. That is taking information in, making sense of it, and it's also coming up with the right words and being able to share that out. So we lose our ability to hear things the way that people are intending them. We also lose that ability to speak clearly and to communicate clearly. We also lose our ability to regulate our emotions, and we lose empathy when we lose access to the prefrontal cortex. We are in what's called a survival mode. And so students must feel safe and connected in order to access those skills. So that is the nervous system in a nutshell, and how the nervous system can impact a student if they don't feel like they're safe and they don't feel like their basic needs are met.
Makes it hard to concentrate on the material of the teaching when you're in flight or freeze mode.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's not a conscious choice that students make to go into a survival mode. It is a subconscious reaction. It is the body taking over because it doesn't feel safe. So the body is now in charge and doing things that we wouldn't normally do if we felt like our basic needs were met and we felt safe in that environment.
So, what are some of your first steps in addressing that with or without EFT?
Oh, goodness. First step for me in anything is establishing safety and connection. That is, to me, the very most important thing that we can do with students. And so, regardless of technique, like you said, even if it's EFT or not, it's really about meeting them where they are. It's about listening to them, helping them to feel understood, helping them to feel like they are not alone. And the reason for that is that rapport and trust and safety act like the nervous system's permission slip. So if we don't have that trust, rapport, and safety, then that survival mechanism remains active. And it becomes increasingly difficult to help regulate them if they continue to feel like they're not in a safe space. So to me, that is always, always number one, is making sure I'm in a good place to be present with them, to let them know that I'm there for them, and, let them know that they're not alone. They don't have to do this alone.
So, once you've established that kind of safe connection with them,
Mhm.
and how do you start to introduce EFT to kids in a school?
Mm. Very gently, very gently. And I even whether it's at school or whether it's at home, introducing it, I feel like it's really a matter of finding the right moment and kind of an opening. In a school setting, I found that students were, when they would come in to see me, if they felt safe, they would tell me what's happening. They would talk to me about how they were feeling about something or a situation that happened. And as we know, EFT supports our emotional well-being. It's emotional freedom techniques. We're focusing on the emotion that's there for them. So anytime that came up with a student, which was frequent in my position as a school counselor, it felt like an opening, a door opening to say, okay, this, I really feel like EFT would be helpful for them in this moment. And it was always an invitation. I think that's really important to remember, that kids need a sense of agency. They need to be able to make some decisions about things. And if I'm inviting them to join me for this weird thing called EFT, where I'm tapping on the top of my head and on different points around my face, and they say no, I need to respect that. So I would offer it to them. I would show it to them and tell them, this is what I use, because that is the truth. This is my go-to technique when I am feeling stressed, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, when I'm feeling sad, when I'm feeling guilty, when I'm feeling anything, anger. It doesn't matter what it is. This is what I turn to. And when I have that trust and safety and rapport established with a student, then they're much more likely to come along with me and feel like, yeah, maybe, if this works for Mrs. Weber, then maybe, maybe it'll work for me too.
Yeah.
And so it's really all about having a safe space for them and an opportunity for them to decline if they don't want to.
Actually, I just realized that I skipped a question that I was interested
Oh,
in
that's okay.
before the EFT part.
Yeah.
Um, what would be one simple strategy that
Mm.
a teacher or counselor or parent can use to help create that feeling of safety in a child who appears distressed or withdrawn or something's going on for them?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really feel like that connection piece. I feel like it boils down to our nonverbals when it comes to, whether you're a parent, whether you're an educator, and you have a child in front of you who is dysregulated. Um, that that keeping a gentle, steady tone of voice, soft eye contact, that just those simple strategies can help to help their nervous system recognize that you are a safe person for them. So it's a kind of a nonverbal way of saying, I am here and you're not alone. Right. So when they lose access to that prefrontal cortex and they don't have the communication skills and they're not taking in the words and they're not able to problem solve, then just softening the voice, slowing your breathing down, and just having a soft, gentle approach can make all the difference in the world.
You have a very soft, gentle approach just in the way you're talking about all this.
Oh,
I
thank
can
you. I
see.
feel like you model that quite well yourself, Stefan. I noticed that in other videos that I've seen of yours, and just the way that you speak. It's very inviting. Really
Uh,
appreciate it.
no, thank you. I was curious. I mean, we're going to get into more stuff, on this
Yeah,
topic. But
sure.
I had one. As we talked about, how do you, kind of introduce it to a child?
Mm.
I was wondering if there was different ways you approach all this, depending on the age of the child. Like,
Oh,
I don't
for
know
sure.
what range of ages you deal with.
Yeah, I mean, my experience in school was with students who were age 9 up to about 14. I've also worked with older teenagers and with some younger folks as well. Um, so it does depend on their age. It depends on their developmental abilities as well. We can have older students that might struggle more significantly with sensory issues. It's really knowing the person in front of you and meeting them where they are. So when we talk about younger kids, less is more. We want to keep that really simple with them, maybe not even using words at first. but just showing them where the tapping points are, inviting them to try them out. And, as we go through these points, I want you to listen to your body. What is your body telling you about which points feel better for you? And we can tailor it to who is in front of us. So, I know there are some charts that specifically show, eyebrow point, under eye, collarbone point, and under the arm for younger children. I actually find that letting them choose, letting them decide which points feel better for them tends to be effective. And again, it gives them a sense of agency.
Right.
So, tapping bears, I do have just a moment. I'm going to show you. Um, I, my Tappy Raffy. This is Tappy Raffy. So I have buttons, different colored buttons on the various points. Younger kids also love to have access to, just a nice cuddly stuffed animal. I find this can work well with adults and older kids too. So just tapping on the stuffed animal rather than tapping on yourself can provide a safe kind of distancing when you're working with young kids, or when you're working with something that feels really emotionally intense. If it belongs to Tappy Raffy, then it might feel a little safer to talk about it and go there. So, I would say those are some great strategies for younger kids. There's some great books out there that can be read to children to introduce them to EFT. With the older kids, just being upfront with them, just talking to them about it and sharing, this is a weird technique. I think that's important to acknowledge that it's strange because it is different than what they're used to. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that they're going to shy away from it. Some might, and that's okay. But we're also just planting seeds, when we just mention it to them, or when we model it for them. If we use EFT ourselves and we show them, this is what I'm doing to take care of myself right now, because I notice that my emotions are big, and I need to address this. So we can model for them, and that's just a lovely way to invite them in as well.
I think lots of times if they end up liking it, that they'll start showing it to their friends.
Oh my gosh, yes. Their siblings, their parents, they'll start telling anyone that that seems interested in it, right? Or maybe even those who don't seem interested in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm curious how you would answer the following question.
sure.
So how specifically does EFT tapping decrease intense
Mm,
emotional dysregulation when a child is currently actively in a triggered state?
yeah,
What does that process look like?
right. Yeah, because if they're in that active survival mode state with some big emotions, again, they're not necessarily able to process the information that you're sharing with them. So it's starting with a soft rapport, the soft tone of voice. It's reminding them that you're there with them, that it's okay for them to feel how they're feeling. These I feel like are really important aspects and ways in with EFT. Um, in my experience as a school counselor, I came across many students who just felt like they weren't allowed to feel how they were feeling. There was something wrong with them for feeling angry about something. There was something wrong with them for feeling ashamed, or for, just feeling sad about something. I felt like it was really important for me to validate exactly what they were feeling, what they were sharing, without judgment. So, creating that space, again, if a student or a child felt comfortable with me and felt like we already had that established, they're much more likely to just be with me in that pain, and allow me to just sit with them. So to me, that is the first step, and just reminding them, I am here for you. You are not alone. We're going to do this together. And depending on whether I had already introduced EFT to them or not, I might, if I had introduced EFT to them, which I did in a lot of classes, shared with a lot of students, so they already had seen it, they knew what it was, then I might say, you know what, honey, I'm going to start doing some tapping on myself. You do not have to join me if you don't want to, but I'm just going to do this just to help me be present for you, help me be able to support you the best way that I can. So I'm really kind of modeling for them. I'm taking care of my emotional needs so that I can be here for you. And there is this beautiful thing called mirror neurons where even if the student is not tapping on themselves, if they see me tapping on myself, they will also experience a benefit. Those mirror neurons act as if that experience we're seeing is happening to us. And I can't tell you how many times I've witnessed this with students or young people and even other counselors that I've supported and bringing EFT into their school, hearing stories about this, where, just tapping on ourselves, even if the student doesn't want to, it has a calming effect on them. For example, I had a student, he was very, very angry. This was during COVID. So we were online and he did not want to tap with me, which was fine. And I just was tapping through the screen. He's seeing me, he's telling me his story, and he is filled with rage, 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 rage. And I just kept tapping, listening to him, validating, just being there with him. And all of a sudden, I started to see him yawn. And that is just, we all know in EFT world, that is one of the beautiful signs. I'm always cheering people on when they yawn, which I know some of my clients are like, you're the only person I know who cheers me on when I yawn. I'm like, because it's a release. That's such a beautiful part of the process. Something is shifting. And his whole body language started to shift. And he never tapped on himself. I was doing the tapping and holding that safe space for him. So there are ways that we can still support students who are really dysregulated with tapping, even if they don't want to join us. And then sometimes they are happy to join us. And then their language starts to come back and they're able to talk a little bit more, and then we can process a little bit more of it. So it's a really, to me, it is a very gentle and beautiful way to meet young people right where they are and help to regulate them so that we can then shift into something that's more problem solving related.
For some of the younger kids, there's something I do with young kids,
Yeah.
including my own. It's like, if you, so tell me if you ever do this kind of thing too.
Okay.
Because lots of times young kids are not able to verbalize what they're feeling very well.
Right.
And so one of the things I'll do is if either they're tapping or I'll tap on them if they're in person,
Yeah.
and then instead of trying to get them to say how they're feeling and repeat phrases and blah, 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 that we do with older kids or adults, is
Right.
I will just, if I know what's going on for them, I will just sort of narrate it for them.
Mm. Yes.
So we use a trivial example, like, your sister, grabbed your toy and wouldn't give it back. And it makes you really mad. So I'll be tapping, and I'll tap with him. I say, every time I go to the next point, you'll also go to the next point, right? And I'll
Yes.
say, yeah, your sister was so mean. She just, without asking, just grabbed your toy and took it from you and just like yanked it away.
Yeah.
And you're really angry because it wasn't right. And you also feel hurt because it felt mean and feel sad. And I'll just sort of narrate for the child
Yeah.
what they're feeling. Do you do that kind of thing at all? Or?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially even for young people who don't have the ability to, even when they're calm, articulate themselves like that, but also for older kids who are so dysregulated that they cannot articulate themselves. They can't seem to get it out. But, the benefit of, using this with your own kids or working in a school setting where you really get to know the students well, you oftentimes can gather enough information that you are able to narrate, as you said, and just to, again, help take the edge off of it to, because you can see, you can see when they are, when their body language changes and their facial expression softens and their tone of voice shifts. You can see that it is making a difference for them and supporting that emotional regulation. So yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, Stefan. I think that's a great strategy to use with young kids.
By the way, I just want to mention for everybody listening live, you're free to make comments or ask questions at any time. You don't have to wait to the end during the Q&A, the formal Q&A part. You can ask questions or make comments at any time. And, if Kathleen's in the middle of saying something, I'll just wait till she's done with that. And then I'll say, oh, we have a comment or a question. Here, let me read it.
Yeah.
And so, feel free to actively participate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Trying to think of another question.
Sure.
Beyond working with children, what advice do you have for educators and parents who need to use EFT to regulate their own nervous system during a high stress day?
Sure. Sure. I feel like self-care has become a bit of a buzzword, but to me, there is nothing more important than taking care of yourself. And it's not selfish, it's necessary. So, I think that we kind of get stuck in this pattern of I have to take care of everybody else. I have to take care of my kids. I have to take care of my spouse. I have to take care of people at work. So we often forget about ourselves or set our own emotional needs aside. And if there's anything that I learned through my process of going through Lyme disease, it is the mind body connection, that if we ignore our own emotional needs, which our emotions are stored in the body is going to speak louder. It is going to speak up. It is going to take over until we have no choice but to pay attention to it. And taking some time, even if it's just a few minutes, that taking care of our own emotional needs does not have to be, an hour-long process. It can be something very quick that we do just to support where we're at in the moment, to help bring us into a more regulated state, to then be there for our kids in a different way. So, if you need to go into the bathroom for a moment and do a few rounds of just tap and breathe, just breathe, and meet yourself right where you are. Notice the tapping on your skin. Notice where the breath is coming into the body, how that feels for you in that moment. Notice, how your belly is rising. So it's just trying to be present, being mindful, taking care of yourself it's imperative, especially when there are children in your lives. I think when we talk about emotional regulation, it kind of sounds like this skill that just, you just everybody knows it. That is not true. And it's something that we have to learn and develop throughout our childhood. So we know babies born into this world, they do not have the ability to self-regulate. They need parents to help regulate their nervous system. And that doesn't change for quite some time. Kids need a calm adult to help them regulate. That is called co-regulation, and that is how kids learn to self-regulate. So, I have this graphic that I often show in presentations where, when a student comes into my office, it has the sailboat with the stormy weather. And it says when their storm meets our calm, and here we are in a sailboat with nice calm water, and then below it shows, just an evened out kind of water flow, that is co-regulation. So, when we have children who are throwing a tantrum, when we have kids in school who are throwing items or really experiencing some kind of intense emotion, and we talked about some of that with that fight, flight, freeze, that survival mechanism that kicks in, what they need is a regulated adult to help them. That is above and beyond the most significant aspect of supporting a student who does not know how to regulate themselves. So when we take care of ourselves, when we take care of our own emotional well-being, then we can show up for the children in our lives in a way that is truly helpful for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just thinking that the sorry, I have some in my throat.
Yeah, sure.
The it can be challenging as a parent, speaking
Yeah.
as a parent, right?
Yep.
That when our kids are really distressed,
Yep.
we know ideally we want to be this calm presence, so
Mhm.
meet their storm with our calmness. But
Right.
lots of times, if a parent's not totally clear how to handle a situation, then the parent can start getting very anxious.
Oh, for sure.
And what
Absolutely.
shows you the importance of tapping for yourself, that taking care
Yeah.
of yourself is not just good for you, but it's actually
Right.
good for your kids
A
because you get
hundred
calmer.
percent.
And also, I wanted to mention, mentioned the thing about going to the bathroom and doing a couple of rounds of tapping.
Yeah.
There's another option that I bet you're aware of, but a lot of people aren't, which is
Mm.
called fingertip tapping,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
right? Where there's points on the side of your fingernail. So if you put your hand up, it's the top side of your fingernails, and you
Mhm.
can curl your fingers in so that you can reach it with your thumb. So if I do it if I do it
Yes.
this way, you can see I'm just tapping on the side of each finger with one hand. And the thing that's really cool about this is you can do it without anybody seeing what you're doing. So
Yeah.
if in the middle of something your kid is having a tantrum or is having some kind of intense anything, you can just kind of put it, down the side of your body and be doing this fingertip tapping, which can help calm you right then and there in the moment, so that you can
Yes.
soothe that any anxiety that's coming up for you as you're trying to deal with what's happening. It'll kind of like calm you back down, so you can get really wonderful help right in the moment.
Absolutely. That's 100% a great idea. Anytime, I think there are times when I've used that when I'm just out in public and something is upsetting to me. It doesn't have to be, with your child, but any time that you're stuck in traffic and you feel like you're being rushed, just to tap on those finger points while you're sitting in the car. I find it to be helpful in any situation where you don't necessarily want to be tapping on your face and upper body, but still want to be able to support your body, support your nervous system, and help send that calming signal to that fight, flight, freeze center of the brain.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah. I also, one of the things that I noticed as a parent myself is, and I feel like I have pretty much been a calm parent, but I will say that when I started to use EFT on a deeper level with a practitioner, that the level of self-compassion that I experienced really helped me to translate that out to my kids, to people I worked with, to my students. It just almost felt like my heart grew in ways that it hadn't before, and just a different kind of understanding of, what happens with the nervous system, and that, oh, okay, this is a survival response that's kicking in right now, and they need my help. It's not a personal thing. It's not a personal attack on me, even if they say I hate you right now. It's that is that
Actually, that's a great point. That's what you just said, is when they say or do something that feels like an
ugh,
attack,
yeah,
it makes it extra hard to stay calm and grounded and compassionate for the child. And this
absolutely.
fingertip tapping can help with that. You just sort of going,
Right, right.
come back. Okay.
Yeah. But doing our own consistent work with EFT, I feel like has only increased my patience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so yes, in the moment we have strategies to help us in the moment, but there are also strategies with EFT where over time you build your own capacity and your own nervous system to be able to tolerate and handle these types of situations differently.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
So, you use EFT in school. And
Hmm.
so, how did you introduce EFT in your school? What was the entry point for doing that?
Yeah, I there were multiple, multiple. I don't think there's one right way. And when I was a school counselor, it was really looking for. I had mentioned this a little bit earlier, but looking for those openings with students where I thought, ooh, okay, EFT could really help them in this moment. So there were openings within my office, one on one with students. I also shared out with the staff that I had been trained and certified in EFT. And if they were curious about it, let me know. We'll set up a time I can share with you. We can do a little demonstration. So I had many teachers who were interested in wanting to learn more, which was very exciting. And so just sharing it that way. And I also, not just looking for opportunities with students, but looking for opportunities with the staff. So for example, I had a teacher who approached me. Her class at the end of the day was right outside the bus loop. So the buses pulled up, the students could see it, hear it. I mean, they were pretty much done with the day anyway. So, um, in particular, one of my students was really struggling, and so hearing her talk about this, and this is where a collaborative approach can come in really handy. I suggested to her, I said, what if we, rather than single out this one student, what if I came in to do a classroom lesson, like a 10-minute lesson on the nervous system and just some simple strategies they can, use EFT for to help calm them down. And I said we could treat it like an experiment. This was really the first time I'd been in a classroom with EFT, so I wasn't sure what to expect. And she was in agreement. She said, "Yeah, come on in." So I did. I did the lesson, and at the end of the day, she came back to me and said, "That is the best class I have had all year." And I thought that to me was exactly what I hoped for. And what I found when I used EFT with students is that it wasn't just, helping them within the safety of my office. It was having an impact beyond my office, having an impact with students. Something was shifting for them when they went back into the classroom, when they went back home, when they went back into the hallway with their peers or into the cafeteria, wherever it might be. Um, and that was always music to my ears hearing that. So, and from that brief lesson, she then was able to start using EFT with her students. She'd start class with it. And, it was just a really beautiful process to witness. So, there are always openings. It's just a matter of looking for them and responding to them in a way that is collaborative rather than demanding.
You just reminded me of a story when you talked about doing a classroom lesson.
Yeah.
I read about this one teacher who had learned, regular EFT,
Yeah.
and then she decided to do a simple little experiment in her class, and that was each time there was a quiz, in their class, on the day of the quiz, she would announce that, okay, everybody, we're going to do a quiz now. This was in like a young, I don't remember exactly what grade
Mm,
it was, but I think it was a
okay.
relatively low grade, maybe third grade, maybe.
Yeah.
And she's okay, everybody, we're going to, put things off your desk. We're about to do a quiz. So as soon as the kids heard we're about to do a quiz, they, all their anxiety and fears, everything just got
Sure.
activated, right? It's like, oh, no, there's a quiz. Oh no. So
Right.
she, without using any words other than saying we're about to do a quiz, which was sufficient to get everything going,
Yep.
she says, okay, but right before we do the quiz, we're going to do Simon Says. So, okay, Simon
Oh,
Says, tap on the top of your head. And and she did
yeah.
like 3 rounds of tapping. And then she said, okay, and now let's do the quiz. And they did the quiz. At the end of the school year, the principal came to her and said, what have you been doing with your students?
Mm,
Because your results are twice as good as any of the other teachers in your grade. And it came from, you know, activating the feelings associated with taking the quiz just by
yep.
saying we're about to take a quiz. And
Yeah.
and with no words other than that initial opening,
Yeah.
a few rounds of tapping was enough to soothe that down so that they can think clearly during the quiz. Because lots of
Yeah.
times when you're anxious, you can barely read the words of of the quiz, and you can't think about the answer.
That's right.
And this is something a parent could do if you if you have the parent say, "Let me know when there's going to be a quiz." Because lots of times the teacher will warn the kids in advance, "We're going to have a quiz
Right.
on Thursday, right?"
Right.
And she says, "Let me know when you're having a quiz, and we're going to do this magic process. We're going to do this magic thing before going to school this morning." And then she would just say, "So today you're going to have a quiz, right?" And the child goes, "Yeah, right." And they're going, and then you just have them tap
Mhm.
along for
Yeah.
a few rounds of tapping, and that will soothe them enough. You might want to do a little bit longer so the soothing lasts better, but and
Yeah.
then by the time they go in and take the quiz, they'll do better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really like Dr. Dan Siegel's hand model of the brain to explain a little bit about what happens with that fight, flight, freeze response. And so, when very basically we have the emotion center of the brain represented by the thumb and the thinking part of the brain represented by the fingers. And when we're calm, when we're regulated, our emotions, our thoughts, our body systems are all communicating with each other. And that's when we can access our prefrontal cortex, is right here where my fingernails are. We can access that information when we're calm and regulated. But when we feel dysregulated, when that alarm system that's housed here in the emotion center goes off, we flip our lid and we lose connection. Like I said, with that prefrontal cortex, we lose our thinking skills, we lose our analysis skills, we lose our communication skills, all that stuff that we need to be able to take a test. So it makes sense that when we're anxious, we flip our lid and then we just don't have access to all the information that we know and that we've learned, but we can't get to it. So when we do use tapping and we can send a calming signal to that alarm system, to the amygdala, to the fight, flight, freeze center of the brain, we can gradually bring that prefrontal cortex back online and access what we know. And I have also seen this with, I had a student who would get so nervous about taking a timed math facts test every day. They had to take it. And if the students didn't score high enough, they had to miss recess.
Hmm.
That was a big deal for a young person, to miss recess, miss that free play time. So, of course, there was some anxiety around that. So, I did some tapping with him in my office around that. And then I taught him those finger points. And he went back to class the next day. He was telling me the next time I met with him that what he did the warm up, and then he took a breath with each finger that he was tapping on, and then he did the other hand, and then he took his test and his scores skyrocketed, all because he had the tools to regulate himself, to bring his prefrontal cortex and all those skills that he needed to do well. He brought them back online. So it was just such a cool experience to hear him. I met with him one time about test anxiety, and he then took it upon himself to use the technique himself to support himself. And he had some great results with that.
This could be the explanation why, there's people who just claim that, I'm bad at tests.
Oh my
Right?
goodness.
Like
Yeah.
I'm good at the work, but I'm bad at taking tests. And
Yes.
this could be the whole explanation as to why they have that experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Also for adults, like when you get interviewed for a job, it
Yes.
feels high stakes. And so it was like, we're very tense and anxious and things.
Yeah, I did some tapping before I did this interview because I, was just feeling a little bit nervous about that. So why not? And now I feel perfectly calm and really enjoying our conversation.
Yeah. What are some key strategies for successfully collaborating with teachers and administrators to safely bring EFT into a school community?
Mm. Yeah, I think it's important to be able to speak their language. I for example, in EFT worlds, we call them limiting beliefs, but in a school setting, we refer to them as a fixed mindset. And so I feel like learning some of the lingo um, goes a long way. Listening, connecting with educators to find out what is it that you're struggling with. What are the issues that they need support?
Let me rephrase the question. I'm
Okay.
thinking more in terms of a parent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If
Okay,
you're an
thank
EFT practitioner, it feels
Yep,
like, what you're
yeah,
saying makes sense. But if you're a parent,
yep.
you're very convinced about the value of EFT and you'd love to see it
Mm,
used
yeah,
in the school for your child, how
yep,
do you how do you bridge that gap? How do you talk to them about it?
yeah. I think any point of access, any kind of communication that you can have with, maybe it's the teacher of your child, it could be the principal, it could be the school counselor. I mean, really anyone that you have a connection with already. It could be the PTO president. It might just be starting with the
Mm.
parents at that level to raise some interest and share an experience with them to see if it's something that they can gain some more support around. Um, it could be volunteering in a classroom setting just to be able to read a story, read a book, to the kids, introducing them to EFT. And just,
Oh, yeah, like
it
one of
can
the
be,
EFT books for children, books that are out there.
yeah, yeah. Actually, I have a couple right here. So we have Gorilla Thumps and Bear Hugs, and that's by Alex Ortner. I don't know if you can see that too well there.
There, now we can see
You
it.
can see it.
Gorilla
Yep.
thumps and bear hugs.
Yep. So this is a great book to introduce, EFT and talking through the points and validating emotions that we're experiencing. It's just a nice light story.
Mhm.
And another one that I really like is called Tapping Your Way to a Great Big Smile. And that's by Anna Sibella. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Mhm.
But these two books in particular, I really like for introducing to kids. Yeah, I think anyone that you are connected to, if you're a parent and you have kids in school, just to start with their teacher or to start with a parent teacher organization and then see where it goes. Because I feel like every school has a different system for who makes the decision on whether we bring EFT into the school system, or how we introduce it. Are we just introducing it into a classroom just to try it? Or, So it's really, having a conversation and collaborating with that person, asking them, what do you think, after I've shared a little bit about EFT, what do you think might be a useful way to introduce this to students or to staff, or, what would be helpful from your perspective? So having a dialogue around it.
All right, cool. So now you have programs that you offer to schools.
I do.
So could you tell us a bit about that?
Sure, sure. I've created several programs. After working in schools for 25 years, I sat through a number of professional development days where I walked away feeling like this is way too complicated. Like this is not it's going to stay in a file because it just didn't seem useful. Educators, school employees are overwhelmed, just like the kids are. And the simpler, the better, in my opinion, in my experience. So I've created a 1 hour professional development specifically for teachers or anyone who works directly with a group of students. It could be special education, it could be TAs, it could be like speech therapists. So, and it's, again, we talk about the nervous system. I want them to understand it's not what's wrong with the student, it's what happened. What happened to the student that is creating this situation, this flipped lid situation? And then giving them strategies that are not only for the students, but for themselves. We talked about the significance of co regulation. And so I talk about that with the teachers and the importance of having that safe space for the students. And teaching them some very basic, simple ways that they can bring EFT into their classroom that only take a few minutes of their time, but can have quite a significant impact, like it did in that one class that I went into. Simple strategies that can just help regulate the nervous system and bring that prefrontal cortex back online. So I have that program, and all the programs I offer can be done online or in person. And I offer a program specifically for school counselors to help them bring EFT into their school counseling practice, whether it's one-on-one with students, whether it's in a classroom setting or in a group setting. So I have that training. And then there are other topics that I cover, like resilience and growth mindset and trauma-informed practices in the school setting.
So wow, so you have a really sounds like pretty extensive, set of training for
Yeah.
bringing EFT into schools and stuff like that, which
Yes.
is fantastic. Should get you
Yeah.
into our school for our kids.
I would love to. I would love to. Happy
Yeah.
to join any school that, it's it always feels like a blessing to me to work with school staff and support them in these ways.
Well, this has been a fantastic topic. Like I said, particular relevance to me and hopefully to anybody listening.
Yeah, I hope so too.
We're about to go into our live Q&A portion, but I'm very aware that not everyone will stick around for that. So in transition, I'd like to cover a couple things. First of which is if somebody wants to learn more about you, how can they do that?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you, Stefan, for having me here and for inviting me to have this conversation. I've really enjoyed my time with you. So where people can find me, my website is www.kathleenwebereft.com. So
Which you can now see on the screen.
there.
I
Yep.
just should have been here all along. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's quite all right. Yep. Yeah. Or my email is Kathleen@KathleenWeberEFT.com. So pretty simple. So anyone listening, whether it's live or the recording, you're welcome to reach out, and I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone about ways to bring EFT to your kids or to school setting, or whatever I can do to support you.
Great. And you also are offering everybody a free gift called From Chaos to Calm, your 3-part regulation toolkit.
Yes. Yeah, so in the description for this video, there is a link directly to that page where you can sign up for this free gift. It's a set of 3 videos. The first really goes into more detail on the hand model of the brain, just to help you understand more about the nervous system and what's happening when we become dysregulated, whether it's adults or children. We all have the same system. And then we move into introducing the tapping points and silent tapping as a way to just help regulate, in the moment with what's happening. Time zone, I use silent tapping, how I have found it helpful, how I use it with my clients. And also, the third video is then tap and breathe, where it's just another level of regulation and how we can use tap and breathe. I personally find that, um, just working with people who've experienced trauma, that inviting someone to take a deep breath might not be the best thing for them in that moment. So it's really just about meeting the breath right where it is as we're tapping. See if what a comfortable breath might feel like for you in this moment. And so it's really kind of going into meeting ourselves right where we are with our breathing and using the tapping to support the change. As we calm that fight, flight, freeze response down, the body naturally goes into that rest and restoration. And that's when the body naturally wants to take a deeper breath all on its own. So just being able to witness that as you go through tap and breathe, I think, is a really beautiful grounding process.
And when you do that, you recover access to your innate intelligence. Like when fight, fight, flee, freeze, we're not in our thinking brain particularly.
That's right.
You get
That's
back.
right. The wisdom that comes from being regulated is really beautiful.
Yeah. We have a comment.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm going to read it for the people on their phone. It says, thank you for such an enlightening conversation.
Mm.
You both bring such inviting, grounding energy. If more children had access to this tool, imagine what a kinder, more peaceful world we'd have.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is really beautiful. What a lovely comment.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And boy, do I agree. And I'm guessing Kathleen does.
Mm, 100%. Yes, yes, 100%. This is my passion, as supporting kids with EFT, supporting adults who work with kids with EFT. Um, I think it has the potential for being a true game changer, and has been a true game changer for, at least people that I've worked with and have used it with.
Yeah. So that's Kathleen's free gift. I too have 2 free gifts, but this is about Kathleen.
Mm,
So if you're curious as what my free gifts are, they're also in the description of this video.
mm,
Um, Also want to mention that if you like this interview, please like the video and subscribe to get, so you can find out when we have more. I do these twice a month, every month on 2 Saturdays a month, just like this one. I've got them scheduled out through the middle of 2026, and I plan to finish. I got scheduled so far ahead. I said, okay, that's enough for now. I'm going to keep scheduling through the end of the year until I have 2 years worth of these interviews for everybody.
wow,
And in
that's
fact, if you'd
fantastic.
like to have a more reliable way of being notified of each upcoming interview, at the very, very bottom of the description of this video, there's a link to sign up to get those email notifications, and so you'll hear about each one of these interviews. All right, so now questions. Oh, actually, sorry, one last thing, and then we get to questions. Our
Okay.
next interview is going to be January 3rd. It's with a wonderful EFT expert named Stephanie Wood, and the topic is EFT and human design, working with your unique identity to clear old conditioning.
That's
So that's going to
exciting.
be a cool one.
Yes.
I know her personally; she's a very nice person and
Oh.
very talented. So it's going to be
Mm,
another good one. So questions and comments. Your turn, everybody.
I'm
And if you
open
have
to.
a bit of a long question, type just one word or one letter and submit that so I know that a question is coming. You know, because you may be in the middle of typing a long thing, and if nothing's happening for a while,
Mm,
I say, well, it looks like nobody has any questions. So bye, everybody. So if you
yeah,
want to, if you do have some, just like I say, just put in one word, like the letter Q for question, submit that, and then I'll know to wait for your question, or C for comment, or whatever. Here's your opportunity to ask anything you want and to make any other comments you might have.
absolutely. I love answering questions. So I'm happy to spend some time on that.
Unless we did just too good a job in covering everything, that there's no questions.
Maybe, maybe. Yeah.
So far, I'm not seeing any. I'd like to
Okay.
give it one more minute.
Sure. Sure. Stefan, may I ask how old are your children? What are
Four
they?
and a half twins.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, late in life parent.
That is fabulous. Fabulous. 4.5 is exciting. Everything is big for them.
Everything's very big for them. Yes,
Yep. Yeah. Oh,
and they get so excited too, which is so nice.
yes. Yeah. My 19-year-old, I think, still has a similar enthusiasm from when he was 4.5.
Nice.
He gets very excited about things, and I love that he still has that.
Yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
Um, well, it doesn't look like anybody's going to post any more comments or questions, so I
Okay.
guess we'll leave it at that. Thank you
Okay.
so much, everyone, for joining us, either in live or all the people who watch the replays.
Yeah.
And see you on the next interview.
Thank you so much, Stefan, for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been wonderful to have you. All right. Bye, everybody.